Happiness is beautiful, it's a kind reality. Happiness is the highest good, happiness is free. So let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy.
Welcome to the Happiness Show. This is George Ortega. I'm here with Claudia Basson, and we're here to talk about happiness, because happiness is, always has been, and always will be the point of it all. Today we're going to be talking about happiness and guilt.
Oh, gross.
Yeah, this is like show. We've been feeling a bit guilty.
Opposite ideas.
I know. We've had this show, like we've wanted to take the show for like a month and a half. We've been putting it off. And so we're feeling a bit guilty. So we don't want to do that. So we're gonna be talking about how like guilt isn't necessary. You know, we don't have to feel guilty to do the right thing. So let's start off. How is guilt harmful to our happiness?
I think it just is because it exists. I think it makes us disempowered. Although some people say it motivates them to do the right thing, and they need to know that they're going to feel guilty later so that they do the right thing often. I mean, that's the way some people describe it to me. But I think that it's unhealthy for us to be wrapped up in wrongdoing and should've, could've, didn't. These are all negative ways of thinking, all negative ways of your belief system. It's a belief system based in negativity. And guilt just keeps you there. It's like cement shoes,
Yeah, it's like guilt. Guilt is kind of like, it's like masochism. It's like self-punishment.
It is self-punishment. It's kind of,
and we learn this, Claudia, in terms of like, why do we feel guilty when we're like 2 years old, 1 year old or something, and we do something wrong? Like our parents will say, "Well, don't you feel bad about it?" And we're wondering, well, I guess you're right. I guess
yes, I'm supposed to.
Or if we don't feel bad about it, then we're yelled at or hit or something, so that we will feel bad. And the idea is that that's the way things have been done, all right? But that's not the way things have to be.
Well, fortunately, not at all hasn't been done in that way. But I think in the more dysfunctional ways of teaching right and wrong, or having an ethical approach to something, is by punishment. The slap or the verbal expression that's negative or bad or wrong or no. And if you're two, you're looking at a lot of this. If you're in a household that's very strict in terms of that little tiny capital punishment. But it doesn't have to be taught that way. But I think your point in saying that's the way we're all taught, well, there's a lot of kids who learn that from their families, and that makes them guilty. And that approach is a guilt-ridden approach. It teaches a child to go, uh-oh, I'm wrong, I'm bad, not good. I'm not going to be loved anymore. They get insecure. They start to question. And that's what guilt makes us do as adults. You don't have to be 5 to feel that way. You could feel that way at 55, which neither of us are, by the way.
The good news, though, is like we are going in the right direction. For example, very few people will hit their kids nowadays, whereas like, a few generations, 100, 150 years ago, that was the way to discipline. They even did that in school.
30 years ago, that was the way.
Right.
But I think, that I would say fewer, not very few. I think it's still going on.
And so, but now, see, we're in the right, we're not, because like now, we've gone from hitting kids to sometimes yelling at them, to still making them feel pain for having done wrong. And so, the next step is like that we can both teach ourselves and our kids that when we did something wrong, the important thing is to understand it, to understand why it was wrong, because like kids are very empathic. Young kids, when they see another little kid crying or in pain, they will feel that pain. They'll sometimes even start crying. It's not that they don't care, it's just that they don't understand.
Yeah, and I think it's important to teach empathy. Not every child looks at a child and feels empathy. Sometimes, they're raised by a S&M environment and they feel pleasure at the demise of another person. But so we want to undo that for sure. But how does guilt stand in the way of happiness, really, developing happiness, of valuing happiness as you're growing up?
In one way...
Maybe you think you don't deserve to be happy because you're bad,
Yes. Yes, that is so key, because like if we're like feeling guilty then that, yeah, by definition, that means that like we've done something wrong and that we're bad.
Yes.
And so like if we're like,
if we're bad, then we shouldn't be happy. We should suffer.
We don't deserve it, yeah.
Yeah, we don't deserve it.
And another thing is like when we feel guilty, when we feel that, because guilt is not a pleasant emotion. It's a painful
Probably
emotion.
the least pleasant.
Absolutely. We feel
angry. Anger is more pleasant than guilt.
Uh-huh. And the other thing is that we identify that, as we were saying before, it causes us to feel like we're not good people, and a lot of times we'll behave according to how we identify ourselves. If we identify ourselves as not good people, we won't create standards for ourselves. We'll say, oh, well, that's just the way I am and stuff. Whereas like when we overcome the guilt, when we recognize let's say we do something wrong, right? And we recognize that it's wrong, and we say to ourselves cognitively, all right, this, I didn't mean to do this, or I didn't know better, or, I had a weakness and stuff. I'm going to do better next time. That, without resorting to the guilt, will actually make us feel better about ourselves.
Most definitely. And if you said, when you started that point, you made the statement, we feel bad about ourselves. If we feel bad about ourselves, if a person really feels like they're a bad person, it's really destructive. It's a spiraling of destruction for the psyche, because then it's a real hopeless, there's hopelessness, and there's no sense of that you can ever become good. You can't do anything good. You can't, feel better. You can't be happy. You can't do something positive. You'll never be successful, So thinking you're a bad person because somebody made you feel guilty about something, it's just, first of all, it's unnecessary, and once you're an adult you can realize that, but for youngsters, they don't realize that they can make a distinction between, well, I did something bad and I can just stop doing that and never do it again. I'm not a bad person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this has its roots, it's not, perhaps where it has its actual roots, but like, for example, organized religion, Judeo-Christianity, Islam, basically they believe in this concept of original sin, that people are born, sinful.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that in catechism.
Yeah.
I mean, I have black on my soul already, and I just, I'm just growing up. I haven't stolen anything yet,
Yeah. Now,
come on.
Here's the thing, sometimes like,
you start negatively.
Yeah, and religious people tend to be, slightly happier than non-religious people, and so people might think to themselves, well, if that's the case, then this guilt thing might be good. But the thing is, like, for example, people will get a same boost to their happiness either by joining a church and attending services, or by going to joining a country club or something. So it's not really about the theology necessarily; it's about being around other people with the religion. So yeah, it's like we have to get over that concept that's institutionalized.
Absolutely institutionalized. Yeah.
Okay.
So how do we? I mean, because people are very used to being guilted into things, of being so fearful of knowing they're going to feel guilty that it adjusts their behavior. So that's not a bad thing. So people need to adjust their behavior toward each other.
That's a good point, because I mean, we have to also like address, all right, in general, it's best if we don't feel guilty, if we don't become guilty. But if the choice is between, if the only way we can get ourselves to do the right thing is to feel guilty, then maybe it's better than we feel guilty than we do something that's wrong, that will greatly limit our happiness and the other happiness of others. But again, I guess the point is that it's better to feel guilty than doing the wrong thing. But the best thing is to understand, cognitively, without going to this negative guilt feeling, that we've done the wrong thing. And that's the thing. It should be a conscious, cognitive decision to do right. Right.
And you said earlier, you're teaching a child that they did something wrong by, then they feel guilty because, you did something wrong and bad. But you can't teach a lesson, I don't think, without some kind of a consequence to negative behavior. A lot of young people today aren't made to pay consequences, very much in a household. I think sometimes the parents that are my age tend to say, or we want to just let them learn and understand what they did wrong. But sometimes if there's nothing there that they're going to risk losing, or a feeling that they're going to have, you know, for a little period of time, that acts as a consequence for them, that they're not going to really hold on to the lesson, perhaps, and learn it and you know, really internalize it.
It's going to be, it's difficult, and I think sometimes we have to take the time to learn how to explain that. For example, let's say you have two little kids, right? And they're playing, and one of them, let's say, takes something from the other, and the other one becomes unhappy, right? Starts crying or something.
Typical common.
Absolutely. So, what can you say to the kid who took the thing from the other kid? Listen, you know, you were playing, you were having fun with this other little kid, right? Before, and you were both happy. But now, what's happening? I mean, he's not very happy. That's going to make it a lot more difficult for you to feel happy. So, like, you're explaining to him that it's not, you're not punishing him, you're explaining, it's in your best interest. You know,
oh yeah, they're going to be going, you know, go away, give me some candy, go make yourself useful. You know, the thing is, it's funny because I was hanging out with a friend of mine who has a young child in a school, it was a play area, and these kids were, you know, having fun, and I love observing human nature. It's just absolutely the best thing, you know, pastime. And plus, it's good practice. And this kid just kind of went over to this little boy's playing, and they were both looking at it, and then it was so beautiful, and I'm enjoying how lovely the interaction was, and also one just goes, okay then, and just kind of starts to walk away. The other one's walking after him going, you know, that's, you know, and the other kid's going, you know, it's mine now. And I was sort of going, this is so interesting, how are they going to resolve this? You know, and it was definitely something that you could easily guilt a child over. That's bad, that's his, that's not yours. I mean, there's a million things you could say that are really bad or just not on target. And why are you saying that? Because you're thinking of a million other things. You're not thinking of the effect it's going to have on your child. You're busy. You know, you may not even have an idea of how to handle it. But so I walked over there. I had a lot of fun with this, and I just kind of squatted down, and they're like looking at me, and I went, that is a cool toy. Can I see that? And I just kind of started playing with it a little bit, and I'm like, wow. I say, whose is this? And one of the little boy says, it's mine. And the other one wanted to also claim ownership. So I just said, well, okay, so if I take this, is it okay if I make it mine? They're like, both of them are looking at each other. This is a conflict here. We've got to fix this. This adult wants it. I don't think she should have it. What do you think? All of a sudden, they became a team. So we created this little team, this little tiny team, you know, these sweet little high voices, and they resolved the problem, and they decided they will both play with it. I can't have it at all, and I was quite happy with that. And then they just kind of walked away, and they were friends, and they forgot about the conflict, and they forgot about, and I don't think it was about the possession of the toy. I think it was about a power and control issue that you're taking out of the home environment, and you're using it in your environment because that's where you're learning it. So guilting somebody, that would have never worked there. Instead, they just learned how to reframe it, you know. Let's stick together and fix this.
And Claudia, that's such a great example you raised, because also what we have to like understand is like there is a difference between guilt and conscience. And what you were doing with those kids is like you were helping them to think about the situation, to activate their conscience, to help them figure out for themselves what's the right and wrong.
Yeah. So you can get involved in a situation with the youngsters. You don't have to control what they're doing or dole out a punishment. That's not your role. You know, your role is to facilitate.
And again, you know, like you could like, you know, one way is to punish the kid and make them feel bad for what they've done. The other way is to like, you know, I'm going to teach you, like, you know, in this case, that, you know, that one should, you know, give things back to the people who, you know, who own them and whatever, and to use feeling good about doing good.
That's the goal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And because it does the same thing. I mean, it's like they do this. Actually, there's a lot of work in this in psychology in terms of motivation, what motivates people to do things. Positive reinforcement is much more effective.
Oh, that's Pavlov right there. We're going back a long time.
Yeah. So let's see. All right. So in terms of like how we do this, how we kind of like get our world to understand that we don't have to punish ourselves to do right. You know, once we've done wrong. I think one thing we have to do, we have to have the courage. We have to have the courage to kind of like, for ourselves, like if somebody's trying to make us feel guilty, you know, we can say to them, hey, listen, I understand that I did something wrong and I sincerely regret it. You know, I don't need to feel guilty.
Right. Yeah, I think it identifies that process of just being accountable, holding yourself accountable for something, owning up. Owning up is hard. You have to own your piece of the bad transaction, you know, and as much as that hurts and you can writhe in pain from having to own up, it's still better than carrying a big luggage full of guilt around with you for the rest of the week, or waking up in the middle of the night going, I can't believe I said that, you know, losing sleep. That's pointless.
And Claudia, we're going to do a show about this. I've already done 2 shows about this before, but it's so important. I kind of like most 99.9% of the world, and me and maybe a few other people disagree on
Mr. Happy.
Hopefully he's with me. I don't know.
He's smiling still. He's good.
The idea is like, we have the idea that human beings have free will. And, you know, I've studied the physics and stuff, and basically, if there is such a thing as cause and effect, then it's impossible that we have free will. So that means, like, if we do something wrong, it's like, my God, it's not that we did it ourselves, it's something that happened to us, whereas, you know, same as we do something right. So we're going to, you know, I would imagine that you kind of believe that we have free will, or?
Oh, God, I think our free will is so encumbered by so many constraints that I don't know what it is anymore. Free willy is more like.
All right, well, good. So no, because we want to do a show, because the idea is like, if we're really, like Shakespeare said, we're actors on a stage, you know, playing, you know, acting out a play. Basically what we're doing is really not in any way under our control, so there's absolutely no reason we should either feel guilty for what we do wrong or feel, you know, this kind of like arrogance or pride when we do good, because neither of these things are in our control. But that's, you know, we're going to do a different show. We're going to do a show on
That'll be interesting. We're going to definitely have a devil's advocate fun with that one.
Right, but I have a feeling because like you're trained in the basic, you know, the psychological approach, where you understand that like our behavior is generally either genetic, like in the case of happiness, it's 50% genetic, or it's environmental. So like if it's either genetic or environmental, or a combination, of course, then there's no room for anything else.
There's no room. Oh, right, then it doesn't exist.
We want to. All right. We should.
While we're talking about free will.
Well, yes, yeah. Well, we're going to go into like the idea is like there are a lot of people in the world who need help. You know, I think over 2 billion people on the planet that live on less than $2 a day. There's a lot of people who just don't have enough to eat and all, and we don't have to feel guilty to help them, right? We can help them through what we refer, and we devote a part of each show to talking about this because we think it's such a great idea.
And by the way, yes, and I just want to say what you just said is so important. A lot of people have a lot, and they work hard for it, and they don't want to feel guilty about it. But, you know, certainly they'd feel better about having what they have if they were making sure that people were fed, that there were people across the world, because they're purchasing products that go directly to their dinner plate. That is a way to just free yourself from feeling, oh my God, I have so much. You know, it's embarrassing.
Right. Well, Claudia, again, we present this idea on each show because it's such a powerful idea for making our world happier, especially those of us who really need the help. So can you explain to the audience what the basic concept is and maybe how we're beginning to promote it?
So you're looking at something like Newman's Own type of a company as the model company. And you're developing products or foods that are needed, you know, in parts of the world. And why not just make the profits go directly to where the help is needed, rather than into the big fat bank account of the big corporation?
Right. Explain to them like what exactly Newman's Own does, because most people are familiar with it. Some may not be.
Yeah, I'm always fascinated with the 40 different products, because there's popcorn and tomato sauce and salsa, and I just added another one to my list. And something else. What is that? Salad dressing. So they produce, you know, foods that you can go and get any product on the shelf. But if you're looking at a product that all of the profits go to help other people, and it's a natural, healthy product, and you're going to try to reach for that anyway, or just the best tasting one even, then you would reach for that one. I would choose that one over, you know, anything else. So the money goes. There's a certain amount of money goes back into the company to help continue to produce and package and distribute. But then certainly the profit goes to the needy.
Yeah, and the reason why this is important, because right now when we buy products, the profit is going to like rich corporations. And the problem with that is that the rich corporations then use a lot of that money to influence our government. And like, for example, the University of Maryland.
I hate that.
Well, yeah, I know it sucks. I mean, because it's like it's robbing us of our democracy. We're supposed to have a democracy where we each have, you know, each have input, you know, a person per vote, you know. But they buy up influence, and they do this from using the profits from the products they sell. So this would be a way, like, right, the University of Maryland, I got to make a correction. I was saying that it was University of Michigan. It's actually University of Maryland did a study, I think in 1995, 96. They asked people how much of our gross domestic product, you know, how much we make over a course of a year, should we be giving to help feed people, you know, for development assistance? They said it's about like 5%, you know, and you know, they said we should be giving 5% of our GDP. In actuality, we give 1/10 of 1%. And the reason we do that is because these multinational corporations lobby against us giving more. So with this profit donation capitalism idea, you know, part of these profits could be used to fight these corporations, to lobby against what they're trying to do.
Let's fight the corporations. That's where the war needs to be brought to. Their doorstep. Because they're wreaking more havoc than, you know, in one group.
Claudia, that's I mean, corporations, we talk about terrorists as our number one enemy. I mean, corporations, especially like the oil companies and corporations who have no concern for our environment and global warming, that, you know, the environmental degradation that's going on, that's much more dangerous to us than the terrorists. It's much more long term.
I mean, we've watched the demise of the corporations and the people involved in you know, in thievery and in embezzlement and, you know, you name it, all these felonies, right? And what are they doing? What are they just sitting around, you know, scot-free? I think we should put a hit on all these big companies.
Yeah.
You know, well, just straighten it all out.
The hit is that, like, you know, they've got the money, right? And they make their money by selling products. So if you have products out there who all of whose profits are going to causes, they're not going to be going to these corporations. So these corporations are going to have much less money to have their power.
Yes, but don't these companies want to create a state, like a welfare state or a needy group of other human beings on this planet? Don't they want that? Isn't that how the economy stays balanced? Isn't it some kind of something I'm not getting? I never paid much attention in economics.
I don't know. I mean, the corporations...
When they want these countries to struggle and suffer and not have, you know, so that we can go in there and just go, neener, 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 we're taking it all away and you can live the way we want you because you have resources we want. So
well, here's what happens with a lot of people in Africa, for example. There might be a drought, okay? And a farmer has, let's say, an acre of land that he's using to grow crops that he's selling to the people around him who can afford his crops, right, for food. Now, after the drought, this farmer is in danger of starving, so a multinational corporation will come in, buy the land from him because the farmer has no choice but to sell, and they'll use that same land to grow export crops that we buy here, you know, out-of-season crops, so that now that land that used to feed those people is now going to these corporations, and the corporations, with that money they get from those profits, do not help those people. So, you know, they really create the circumstances that make poverty worse as each year goes by, because these droughts and floods are, you know, part of their life there.
Yeah, we have to stop this.
Absolutely.
And we were talking about celebrities helping. And we're going to try to get Oprah on the show, right?
Yeah.
Oprah, come on. Let's get Oprah.
Oh, yeah, because, yeah, with this idea, I mean, like, you know, if 40 celebrities were to come out with like 40 products, you know, have an international simultaneous launch.
Aren't they all doing that? There's either a clothing line, you know, for big butts, or there's just like, you know, some spray you can put on. I see Britney's picture all over the magazines now, and I at the hairstylist the other day, I was like, oh, look at this, man. This is amazing. She's like 4 different ads. You know, that's her. So, you know, these celebrities can really do so much more good, you know, with that. I mean, I don't know. I'm guessing that if these, I mean, I'm sure they all make donations and they're charitable, but if they went online as to say, okay, this company is being set up for this purpose only, people would love that. It's so motivating.
Absolutely. And I mean, you know, regarding guilt, I mean, like, I think
Maybe
collectively.
they need to be guilted into that. What do you think?
Well, that would be a good guilt.
You
Absolutely.
see, we're hypocrites.
Absolutely. Well,
There is good guilt.
no, we could we don't have to. We could say to them, listen, you get together with 40 celebrities, you do a simultaneous launch of 40 products, food products, all to for ending poverty. You're going to get a lot of very good publicity from that. So it's not something that like we're going to, we're kind of like guilting them into doing. We're going to show them how it's not just good for the world, for their careers also.
Right.
Absolutely.
It is. It really is.
Oh yeah.
It grounds them. It gives them more better purpose.
And they can do it. I mean, that's all that'd be necessary. Okay, and also like regarding guilt, I imagine that a lot of us, feel a certain amount of guilt about, this poverty movement is growing, especially in Europe and all, and so this profit donation capitalism idea allows every time we go shopping, every time we go food shopping, buy a product, yeah, I'm helping out, I'm doing the right thing. I mean, it would be wonderful for that.
Absolutely. Wasn't that Live Strong, that yellow band that people were wearing? Wasn't that all profit donation capitalism?
Yeah. There was the Armstrong one. There was the first one. Lance Armstrong created that. Now there's one that's called One. An organization.
Oh, well, that's the celebrity thing. Brad Pitt and all those people do that.
Right, and that's for poverty, and they're for all different causes, and that's exactly that concept. Buying a product whose profit is not going to make rich corporations richer. It's going to the money's going to be used for a good.
What is One? What do you buy through One?
Well, One sells the same wristbands that say One.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
See, interesting.
Well, that's the thing, because also a lot of these products are sold on the internet, and many people don't know about it. But if they got them into supermarkets, that'd be a really good way to do that.
Well, you can get a Live Strong thing. I see them on everybody in a supermarket. But can you get a One band?
Well, through the internet now, but that's what I'm saying.
Oh, you should be able to see it everywhere. Yeah.
All right, Claudia, now don't we feel less guilty for having done this show on guilt?
Absolutely, I feel good. Me and Mr. Happy, we're rocking and rolling.
Because, when we do the right thing, then we don't have to feel guilty. And even if we don't do the right thing, we should understand that we can do the right thing without feeling guilty.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, well, that's all we have time for today. Thanks for watching. In the future, we'll explore other topics designed to help us better enjoy life.
And we're going to get Oprah on the show.
Oh, yeah, Oprah, she's got to be here. Okay, be good, think well, feel very happy, and I hope you'll join us again next time here on The Happiness Show.
Happiness is powerful. It's our underlying need. Happiness is why we live each day. Happiness is destiny. So let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy. Yeah, let's be so very happy.